The CEO of the most valuable company in the world sat down for a conversation a few days ago and said he believes we've achieved artificial general intelligence. Not that we're getting close, not that it's 5 years away. He said he thinks it's here right now. The internet split immediately. One side is saying he's right, and this changes everything. The other side is saying it's marketing hype from someone who sells the chips that power AI. But both sides are skipping over the more interesting question, which is, what did he actually mean when he said that? And does the phrase artificial general intelligence mean the same thing to him as it does to you? Here's what actually happened in the conversation. The host asked Jensen Huang a specific question. Could an AI autonomously start, grow, and run $1 billion company? And Jensen said, yes, he thinks we're there, pointing to agentic platforms that can launch applications, build digital presences, and manage operations with minimal human involvement. Then he quietly added a caveat that most people missed. But you didn't say forever. That's a very specific, very practical, very economic definition of AGI. Can it do this one extremely impressive thing under these conditions? And by that narrow framing, he might actually have a point. But here's the problem. When most people hear we've achieved artificial general intelligence, they're not hearing that narrow, practical claim. They're hearing something much bigger, that AI can now match or exceed human intelligence across any task, any context, any domain, that it can reason and adapt and exercise judgment the way a generally intelligent being does. And by that definition, we are clearly not there. So what's actually going on is that the same three letters, A, G, I, are carrying two completely different meanings, depending on who's saying them and why. One definition is narrow and economic. Can it perform this impressive function? The other is broad and cognitive. Can it think generally the way humans do? And when a term that powerful means different things to different people, the confusion that follows is not harmless. If people accept AGI is here at face value without examining the definition underneath it, real things start to shift. Companies begin making decisions as if AI can exercise general judgment across contexts and skip the human oversight that's still essential. Policy conversations move forward as if the technology is more broadly capable than it actually is in most domains. And individuals, regular people trying to figure out their careers, start feeling like the game is already over, like human expertise has already been surpassed, when the reality is much more uneven than that. But the opposite reaction is just as dangerous. If people dismiss Jensen's claim entirely as hype, they miss something that's genuinely real. The capability is advancing fast, and agentic systems today can do things that would have been science fiction 2 years ago. Dismissing the progress leads to under-preparation, and under-preparation in a transition this fast is its own kind of risk. So the useful response isn't picking a side. It's being precise enough about what these words actually mean, that you can prepare well rather than react badly. And there are two distinctions that help cut through this kind of claim, not just Jensen's, but any big AI headline you're going to see from here on out. The first is the difference between capability and judgment. An AI system can now produce outputs that look like expert-level work and execute complex tasks autonomously, and that's real capability. But exercising contextual judgment under pressure, knowing when something looks right, but is actually dangerous, carrying accountability for the outcome, that's a different kind of intelligence entirely. The system that can launch a company on autopilot is demonstrating capability, whether it can navigate the messy ambiguous, high-stakes decisions that keep a company alive over years, the kind where there's no clear right answer, and the consequences of getting it wrong are severe. That's a judgment question, and it's one that nobody making the AGI claim has convincingly answered. The second is the difference between passing a test and doing a job. Jensen's evidence for AGI was largely based on defined benchmarks and specific impressive tasks, and on those measures, the systems really are remarkable. But passing a test with clear success criteria is fundamentally different from operating reliably in the real world. Where the problems are ambiguous, the success criteria keep shifting, and nobody tells you which test you're even supposed to be taking. The history of AI is full of systems that perform brilliantly on benchmarks and then struggled when deployed into environments where the rules weren't predefined. The gap between acing a test and doing a job is exactly where human judgment, contextual awareness, and accountability still live. Now, here's what's worth taking seriously in what Jensen said, because being fair about this matters. The pace of capability advancement is real, and it's accelerating. These systems are getting more powerful on a curve that shows no sign of slowing down. Jensen's broader point, that intelligence scales with compute and that the systems will keep getting more capable, is supported by everything we can see. Whether or not we call it AGI, the practical implications for how we work, how we trust, and how our institutions function are already here, and they're intensifying. The question isn't whether to take this seriously, is whether we're precise enough in our language to respond well, rather than react badly. So the next time a headline tells you something massive about AI, whether it's AGI is here, or AI will replace everyone, or AI is just a bubble, before you pick a side, ask yourself 3 questions. What definition are they actually using? What's the gap between the capability they're describing and the judgment required to deploy it responsibly? And who benefits from you accepting the framing without examining it? Those 3 questions will cut through more noise than any expert opinion, including this one. Drop a comment and tell me. When you first heard Jensen say, "We've achieved AGI," what was your gut reaction? And has it shifted at all now that you've thought about what the words actually mean?